Okay, we're going to get started now and probably have some folks join us here in a little bit. But first of all, my name is Stacey Wisniewski, and I'm the founder and chief marketing strategist of Wiz Advisors. And I'm thrilled today to have two folks joining me. Dan Hulkower, who is senior vice president with After Inc., and Barrett King. Both are partners and clients that Wiz has been blessed to have for the last couple years. And so you'll be hearing a lot more from them today. I've also got Sarah Smith on the phone, who is fairly new to Wiz Advisors, but not new to me. We've worked together in the past, and she's a valuable addition to the team. So welcome. There's a poll up there. Please take it if you haven't already, and we'll get started. So what we're going to cover today, why HubSpot? Guys, I've been really looking forward to this webinar because Wiz Advisors became a HubSpot partner back in January. And for the last year, we've actually had the HubSpot platform in our business and seen the results. A lot of our clients also use it. And the great part about it is being a HubSpot partner, you know, I'm not really a salesperson, and I don't like selling things to my clients because I feel like, you know, the value should speak for itself. And that's what I feel about HubSpot. So I became a HubSpot partner because I felt like it's such a valuable tool for me as a marketer and such a valuable tool for the companies that I work with, to drive sales, to drive lead generation, to drive visibility into all of that. And you guys will hear more about that today. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Barrett King, who is one of the most knowledgeable HubSpot people and one of the funniest people I know. So take it away, Barrett.
What an intro. I think I should make a joke right now to make it interesting. Thank you, though. I could do like a why did the chicken cross the road thing, but I think we'll avoid that for all obvious reasons. So I appreciate you having me, obviously, Stacey. We've worked together for a year now, like you said, and I think the point that you made in terms of your intro was spot on. A lot of my core job, just for folks listening now and anyone listens to this later on, is to support, you know, Stacey and team in helping customers to understand HubSpot, understand inbound, understand our solution and how our technology adds value to businesses like their own. And then if it makes sense, you know, we make it accessible to them. And the question here posed on the screen is probably the most common, which is why HubSpot? What makes sense about it? HubSpot as a solution, for those of you that aren't familiar, is meant to be all in one. And the idea behind that is that taking all of your customer-facing teams and aligning them around one system of record really does improve efficiency, but it certainly makes them more, not just effective at their job, but in terms of driving better results, it's easier to do so. And so when you look at HubSpot as a platform, we're allowed to engage, we're able to engage the customer throughout their entire lifecycle, their entire journey. And so we've got a CRM, a database system that is your system of record that lives as the foundation of, think of it like the basement of your house or the foundation of your home. The reason we set it up this way is that the graphic here really well articulates. The funnel idea has kind of changed more than anything else in the last couple of years. The idea that you would stuff a bunch of marketing opportunity in the top of your business and then really jam it through in terms of qualifying and looking for a good fit and then really enabling your sales team to go and prospect into that got kind of lost in the mix, because what we saw was that our customers, believe it or not, becoming the center of our focus really drove more opportunity. And so as HubSpot shifted our model from a technology perspective to better support our customer, it evolved our methodology to be flywheel. So left being your traditional funnel methodology, the right side being what we have coined as a term called flywheel. You may have heard it before. It might already make sense to you, but for all intents and purposes here, what you have to understand is that the customer is the center of your world, the center of your ecosystem. And what HubSpot uncovered in our process and our research and in our understanding of our customer was that our customer's customer was the one who was actually helping them to generate more opportunity, first and foremost, that then fed into their marketing efforts, that then fed into their sales, and ultimately the way they retained and managed that customer as well. And so what we realized is that the customer lifecycle became circular in nature, and you could actually build momentum at any stage of that process. And so our tools evolved to be more well-rounded, and then again, to focus really on the customer as the center of that entire ecosystem. And so what sort of happened is that with this system of record, one database as your record of source, it allowed the customer-facing teams to always have relevant and timely information throughout the entire customer lifecycle, which I've said before. What's important to note is that the marketing tool set gathers those customers in, certainly, and gathers that opportunity in the form of a lead or a prospect. And the sales team carries that same context forward in the way that they sell and the way they engage that buyer. And the customer service team can use that hub to continue that process. So what it does is it actually creates a seamless way for your customer to experience your brand, to have consistency, obviously, and to enable your team to be more effective, again, throughout that journey. And so what you see is that when you look at the marketing hub, this idea of attracting a better customer, there's a phrase that I used to use when I first joined about 5.5 years ago now at HubSpot. This sort of expression of like, well, we're going to help you to attract more of the customers you want to work with. That sounds like really, I guess, like a little bit egotistical in the sense that we can guarantee that, but we really could, because smart marketing nowadays is about being relevant and timely throughout your buyer's entire experience, not just with you, but before that, putting out the type of content that your prospects are looking for, the ones that they're trying to engage with in terms of blogging content and helpful ebooks and whatnot. And so the Marketing Hub is a tool set that allows you to drive traffic to your website, convert those traffic points into leads and obviously into sales opportunities, but then to actually measure the impact of that, driving a full experience, as I mentioned, to help you get found online, help you convert and nurture leads, and ultimately, measure the impact on your revenue bottom line. And then what we do is start to connect to the next part of the process here. Now that we've gathered, it was perfect, yeah. Now that we've gathered, you're in my head, I like it. Gathered opportunity, we've got marketers coming in the door, marketable opportunities coming to the door. So we've got leads, the marketers are doing their job. You partner with an agency like Stacey's and they're helping you to actually do that. We've got all this context. What do? We feed it to the sales team. Now we can do that in the form of SQL. We can do that in the form of a variety of different terminologies and process. But ultimately, because they're working on the same system of record, they have the same contact, the same company data. And so the salesperson now is empowered to really streamline their outreach. We've got really powerful and effective tools to automate that outreach, to engage their buyer, and to really be mindful about the way they do it. But then connect that prospect, throughout the process to the different members of your team. And so again, you're going to hear me say that a lot here in the beginning, but it's about sort of like the synergy, the alignment of those different systems to bring together a more holistic customer journey. And then lastly, just to track everything, because data obviously is a core, cornerstone really of our process as marketers, as salespeople, as business leaders. We give as much data as possible, really streamline it into a consumable fashion to help you make truly informed decisions. And so the sales tools are about giving you a deeper insight into your prospects, obviously automating the busy work sort of process part of it, and obviously just helping you to progress deals faster. And then lastly, and it's really probably my last little piece here, it's the CRM. And so you've heard me say this a bunch in terms of a aligned system of record, bringing your customer-facing teams, your marketing, your selling, and your servicing teams together. It's about unifying all those folks into one data set, sharing context between those teams, and then ultimately organizing and tracking that customer communication. What that does is it takes all of those data points, those touch points, brings it together in a really streamlined fashion so that your business at every step of the way can make the most informed decisions, be really impactful on your customer at every one of those touch points, and drive true ROI throughout your customer lifecycle. And so that's sort of HubSpot in a nutshell, if you will, sort of the overview. The tool has a lot of different facets and values and elements to it. But I'll kick it over to my colleague here, Dan. I'm going to have him probably speak to a lot of the things he's got here in the slide and certainly his own experience with the solution.
Sure. And I just saw a question coming in comparing HubSpot versus Salesforce. And so we looked at Salesforce also before implementing HubSpot, and we found that HubSpot could give us, everything we were looking for at a fraction of the cost. And the interesting thing with Salesforce is, they'll sell you that framework, and then you've got to customize it, and they have a whole network of people that you can choose from depending on your business to customize the application for your use, and that costs significant dollars. We were able to use HubSpot and customize it and configure it ourselves because it was pretty easy. And my first point on this one was the intuitive CRM. It does, and so it has all of your information that compiled in a way that is easy to make sense. It allows for pipeline management very easily. The contact management is all sensible. And simple things like adding a company are very intuitive, where you just put in the company's website, and then HubSpot goes out and grabs all the information, puts it into your system, tells you as much as they know about it. I'm not sure, Barrett, where does HubSpot get that data for all of the websites? Because it's been very impressive to me whenever I put in a URL.
Yeah, that's a good question. So a bunch of different places is probably the most generic answer I could give you. It's publicly sourced data. We have a few data partners as well. If you think about it this way, if it's available, like we're not digging through like their private Facebook accounts or whatever. It's publicly available in the sense that folks are volunteering it in some fashion. We do enrich it. We also have whatever it is now, 100,000 customers and tens of millions of folks in our database. And so we're able to glean also data just from the fact that we've got other touch points on a lot of these companies. So what we try and do, we are by no means a data enrichment company, but we try and share context where it's, I'll say like morally, responsibly, socially acceptable to do so, in the sense that if it's available, we do enrich that point. It's not perfect, but I think we do a good job, and I appreciate you.
Yeah, I've been, very impressed, with, it's rare that I'll put in a URL and it doesn't get it. It's only with the smallest of companies. So, from my perspective, everything really, what HubSpot does, it does all of the blocking and tackling basics very well, very easily. And it was, all intuitive. I didn't, there's a lot of self-help videos available on the site. I used a few of them. I didn't really need a whole lot. It really was pretty easy. So, if you compare it to Salesforce, I think the single greatest difference is just how easy it is to get it up and running, and how much less expensive it is. So, all right. So then it is, like I mentioned, it is very customizable. So you can make categories for just about anything you want. You can see on the left that's highlighted. We talked about the different industries that we're interested in. We do have one person on our staff who wants us to categorize things down to the nth level, and even he is satisfied with what's available. So you can really create all kinds of categories. And what we do is, you're able to then segregate your customers, segregate your prospects, and handle them differently depending on what it is that you're trying to do. So the other nice thing is that it integrates very easily with your email and calendar. We use Google for our email. You can see that I've got it also integrated with Outlook. And every time you send an email, it just logs it immediately. There was after literally the 5-minute setup, that worked. And I can either go through my own application and HubSpot grabs it, or I can go through the HubSpot application and it'll track all of that. And the nice thing about it is that when you send an email to one person, you can see when they've opened that email without them having to get a read, say, oh, this has a read receipt. Now they know that that they've seen the email. So I really like that feature. And particularly when I've sent someone 8 emails and now I know they've read them, it's nice without having that sort of invasive part to it. Mm-hmm. So then there are some really great automation features. What I've highlighted here is just a snippet. We get a lot of sort of general inquiries. I have a general inquiry response that I can just ping right away, and I respond to it in minutes. And it takes me literally under 10 seconds to do. There's all kinds of automation that you can do where if you're categorizing your clients, you're categorizing prospects, where if you get certain types of inquiries, you can automatically send them a response. If you have a campaign and someone clicks on one of the links, you can generate a response right away. That stuff is all pretty easy to set up. I use Stacey to set that stuff up, but I'm pretty confident that I could do it myself if I had to.
You could.
Yeah, and it really it's huge time savers. It's good stuff. So, and then the last thing that I really love about it is there's an app which I of course am using a little less now that I'm not on the road. But when that day comes, when we're traveling again, it's all at your fingertips. Very intuitive app. We had before HubSpot, we used a different CRM, and the app was useless. This one works, and so you can find everything that you want, and it's all, again, very intuitive.
And I feel like while you're not on the road, you are still walking from your current location to like the fridge, right?
True.
Or like perhaps the driveway to pick up the paper. So en route, you never know. You might need to log a note on a call. Good option.
Good point. Yeah, good point. Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely. Thanks, Dan. I mean, you guys, this stuff is great. And I will tell you that Dan is, immensely technology literate, but there are some folks, maybe not necessarily at After Inc., but other clients that I've had.
No, that After Inc.
that may not be as technologically savvy, and they're able to utilize the platform and get a ton out of it. So it's not complicated, but it's powerful, if that makes sense. I would say that's kind of like my the way I like to describe it. So moving on from sales to marketing, and I get the benefit actually of both, because Sarah and I have the platform for Wisnadvisors as well. So I'm just gonna, second what Dan said about the app. From an agency perspective, sending, and you guys can know this too, if you're salespeople, you send out a contract, or you send out, something to someone. It's nice to know that they opened it. They may not get back to you right away, but it's nice to know that they opened it. And then you can kind of like sit back and go, okay, they've read it. It's a great feature. I seriously think it's one of my favorite features, just because I'm always, going a million places, and having, that knowledge on my phone is fantastic. All right. So my favorite features from a marketing perspective, we'll dive into, lead generation. So I think.
Got you now. Okay. Keep going. Rock and roll.
We've had some internet issues. Thanks so much. So all my lead gen stuff I can do from one place: email, social posts, social ads, everything. And the best part about it is not only can you do all that stuff, but you can measure it. So lead source identification, one of my clients, this is one of their big ones. This is one of the reasons why they're buying the platform to begin with, is because they don't know where their leads are coming from. They'll know if they maybe filled out a form and there's a question on there that they answer. Maybe they'll know that way. But the great thing about HubSpot, and I'll go into this in a little more detail, is if you're in the database, it will know if you're on social. It will know if you've clicked on an ad, if you're in the database. Now, some of the hardest part for us is, well, what happens before they're in the database? A lot of that is really tough to find out, but once you get to the website and you capture their interest enough to become a contact, then moving them through the funnel becomes so much easier and very, very transparent. The third thing, the content marketing and SEO tools, I'll go into this a little bit, but you basically do all your blogging from HubSpot. It makes it look like it's on your date, because most of us use WordPress. I don't know about you, but I know I do. I know most of my clients do. And it'll set up, the templates right within HubSpot. You do all of your blogging from HubSpot. And then when you send it out, let's say you send an email to all of your clients saying, hey, I've got this great new blog. People that come and read the blog, all of this stuff is going on, and you've got one database that's capturing it. And to what Barrett said about the alignment, then when Dan goes in and gets a new, the person's moved through the funnel, they filled out a form, they did a couple more things. Now they're actually a sales qualified lead. Dan can look in there and see all the activity that happened before he got there, which is a huge deal. ABM, that's another thing we're going to talk about, which most of my clients I've convinced is it's really one of the most powerful marketing strategies you can use. We'll go into how HubSpot does that. And then, last but certainly not least are all of the automated workflows. This just gives you guys a little bit of a picture of the lead gen stuff. So You can do your ads, and then all you have to do is link your LinkedIn account, link your Facebook account, just link your accounts to the HubSpot platform, and it will, show you what your engagement is as well. I didn't put this in here, but I think it's a great thing too. Barrett and I were just talking about this the other day, which is your competitors. So you can actually also follow your competitors on HubSpot. They have kind of like a social listening piece of this in their social part, where you can either put hashtags or you can put the competitors' information, and it'll follow them and show what they're doing. And then from a blogging perspective, you're getting all this great information on what's engaging and what the other folks are doing, that are in your world. Contact source, like I said, this is one of the best features. I mean, because you're doing all of your marketing from HubSpot, you now know, how many of your contacts came from a web lead, how many came from a paid search, how many came from an ad. This doesn't show it, but in a lot of cases, you guys will have your own database that you'll import there. And that'll be probably a big portion of this, at least in the beginning, is all the contacts that you had previously. But then once you start using the platform, you're going to start getting all this additional data, and it's going to give you an idea of what's working. So, what am I spending my money on? What am I spending my time on? What's working? And this is a great way to do that. And then as they move through the funnel, Barrett talked about an SQL. And just for those of you guys out there, MQL means marketing qualified lead. SQL means sales qualified lead. And all it is it's just thinking about the buyer's journey, going from that stranger that Barrett talked about in the very, very beginning, all the way to a customer. And what are those phases along the way? And a marketing qualified lead means they just maybe did a few things, like they opened a few emails, or they read your blog, or they did all that stuff. And HubSpot can capture that. And what's neat is it can automate the process. Is if they do those things and you build a workflow around it, it'll automatically become a sales qualified lead, and it'll go to Dan. So those are some of the interesting things that that the HubSpot platform can do. Sorry about that. I'm having technical issues today, and I apologize about that. But so number 3 is content and SEO. So this is like my bread and butter. So Wiz started as a content agency, and we still are. That's one of our big things that we do for our clients. Is we do a lot of writing, a lot of blogging, because in my opinion, and it's become, kind of the lifeblood of B2B companies nowadays who are building their digital presence, is just your organic content, and it builds trust, right? Do people know who you are? Do people trust you? Yes, they do, because you know what you're talking about, and you've got all this great blogging. Well, HubSpot has these tools, and you can basically, say, okay, I want to talk about, I put B2B content marketing just because that's something that we do. And then you can see they're called pillars, and going from each one are all the different types of things that you can talk about from a B2B marketing standpoint. And what's neat, and I show this in the upper right-hand corner, is if you link your Google console, right there, you can also see, well, what are some of the keywords that are really driving a lot of search right now? Like, what are people searching on in this whole realm? Okay, maybe that's something I really want to talk about and write about. And then HubSpot even goes so far as to look at your website and offer, and your blogs and your whatever, and offer SEO recommendations. You can see it down below. Super, super user-friendly. You click on it, says, go do this one thing, and you go do it, and it improves your SEO. So again, very, very user-friendly. So ABM, and this is, if you haven't heard of ABM, it stands for account-based marketing. It's not really marketing. It's just basic. It's marketing and sales going hand in hand to basically go after your top prospects. Instead of having what we like to call sort of like your mass strategy of going after, let's say you have an industry and you've got 1,000 emails of people, and you go and you blast all these emails out to people, hoping that maybe you'll get 3 clients. Okay. And typically ABM is used in those industries where you have a high ticket item or a high ticket service, right? So let's say you're selling something that's in the 6 figures. Instead of doing this sort of mass prospecting strategy, what if we actually targeted the top 5 folks that you want to target starting Jan 1? And we built a strategy around it, and we put them in HubSpot. And you can see right here, we would put in the name of the company, and then we would go out and we would find out who all those folks are who are in the company. And we would personalize and do more targeted marketing and sales activity, and capture it in HubSpot and see our progress. And we have found with sort of that high ticket item where you've got a lot of buyer folks in the buyer pool, that this works really well. And I'm kind of going off on a tangent because I believe so strongly in it, but ABM is a great tool. And these tools that HubSpot has aren't super old. I mean, I want to say we released them in the last like year and a half or something, Barrett, but long story short, they've it's risen HubSpot to a new level with this stuff, because now you can do all the same things that you were doing for everyone, but you can kind of consolidate it on a company by company basis in order to follow your top prospects.
That's a super important note, actually, Stacey. If I can just hop on top of that, there's ABM. I have a strong opinion here, so forgive me if I insult anybody. I don't mean to, but ABM is a term that people just use for the sake of using it. Like it's like the word synergy or alignment in like a learning situation. Like everyone wants to feel like it's empowering. ABM is the action of being mindful about how you market and sell to a specific persona within a specific business. And so really it's just about focused marketing and focused selling. What HubSpot did 18 or some months, you're correct, in the timeline ago, is that we looked at what our customers needed to properly visually represent that and really align all of their efforts into one tool set. And so from a functionality perspective, ABM with HubSpot combines the power of workflows you're going to speak to, combines the power of smart content, all these other elements to give you a really hyper-focused way of attacking the folks you want to go after and ensuring success and knowing obviously where your gaps are to get there. And so I think for a lot of folks, when they look at ABM, it feels intimidating. It's not. For many of us, it's what we're already doing. We just take it to a really focused and effective level.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, I know in my previous job, that's the way we just did marketing, was we did it, we did ABM. We had very, very, very large companies with, tens of 20s of 30s of decision makers inside. And it was all about, how are we going to turn these decision makers, into proponents of ours? And that's really what ABM kind of is. And then ultimately it's, getting the sale, which is the big deal. And then finally, but definitely, one of the most powerful elements of any marketing automation platform is the workflows. And what this does is it allows you to automate stuff that you were doing anyway. But it does it, and it does it easily. So let me give you guys a couple examples. So Dan mentioned it. Anytime somebody fills out a form on your website, right? And let's say you have 3 different forms. Let's say you're in a certain industry and you are targeting, 3 different other industries. Maybe it's healthcare, maybe it's, healthcare, forestry, and technology. I mean, 3 totally different ones, right? And you have 3 different forms. What you could set up workflows to do is for each form, they would get a specific, hey, I filled out a form because I want you to get back to me, or hey, I filled out a form because I want to read your ebook. And whatever they did, it would automate something back to them that was very specific to their industry or whatever, and make them feel like, oh, okay, these guys, know who I am and the type of pain point I have. It can also, as I mentioned before, workflows can move a contact from just being an overall contact who you don't know who they are, a stranger, to a marketing qualified lead who we would handle differently with different types of marketing or whatever, to a sales qualified lead who then Dan would go and start the sales process and make a phone call and things like that. So all of that stuff can be automated, and then you can have reporting that shows, how you're moving along. And then finally, things like when they become a client, perhaps there's, an onboarding sequence or an onboarding set of things that you do that are emails, as well as sending them information and things like that. Those are all things that can be automated through HubSpot. And, those are my 5, but let me tell you, that is definitely not, we've scratched the surface, but I think, it all depends on you and the industry that you're in and everything. But I wanted to share this quote with you guys, which is something that actually came from the HubSpot website, which is, in 2021 and beyond, the biggest threat to your company's growth is not your competitors. It's a poor customer experience. And I think now more than ever, with everything being digital, there's a certain level of expectation that comes along with that. And I think without a tool like HubSpot, where you have that visibility, it's very difficult for you to, kind of react in the timeline that your customers want you to. We have not talked about the Service Hub. There's a Service Hub too, and it's only because we don't necessarily have the service side of the business, with what I do or with what Dan does. But if you do have a service piece of your business, or you want to do things like send out NPS surveys on a monthly basis, I mean, those are the kinds of things that the Service Hub does really well. And so, just know that that's there. I'm going to pop it over to Sarah, who is going to share a little bit about kind of next steps with you guys, and then we'll open up for Q&A.
Hi, everyone. So if you're interested in learning more or scheduling a demo, please just reach out to me. My email's on the screen, and I'll get you all set up with ourselves and Barrett. We also have, if you're signing in the month of December, we have some great discounts that we're able to offer. So please reach out if you have any questions on those or learning more about the sales, marketing, or service side of it. If there are any questions that we have not already answered, we'd love to see those now. There's the chat or the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. So please take a minute to put some in there, and we'll start answering them. We had some great questions throughout that I'm not sure that everyone could see. So one of them we did address earlier on. It was asking about the difference between HubSpot and Salesforce. We also have a question about the difference between Zoho and HubSpot. Barrett, I know you sent an answer out to anyone or to everyone, but was there anything you wanted to speak to on that one?
Yeah, I can speak more to both. I think when I look at Salesforce versus HubSpot 2 years ago, I would have said really the core difference being Salesforce tends to be a little more expensive in many ways, and certainly a little bit more complex. It's really great for like Fortune 500 companies, and we don't claim to be in that space. Like, they absolutely nail that. They've been in that space for a long time. I think where HubSpot's really solved for the customer differently is in the mid-market, lower enterprise, and even some of the SMB space in general, in the sense that we try really hard to make it easy to customize, make it map to your process. And so I think it's an important thing to highlight. The other piece being that we did not historically have custom objects. So if you want to pump in, like, for example, shipping data, we didn't have that. There was a way to do it, but it wasn't clean, it wasn't sexy. A little over a year ago, we implemented that. We've had a lot of success because of it. So if you ask me today, the core difference between Salesforce and HubSpot, my bias as an employee aside, I'd say the end user has a better experience typically in HubSpot. And then there's a bunch of customization and flexibility of the platform, which you heard from Dan as well. In terms of Zoho, I think they're a little bit closer to us as a holistic solution. So you hear terms like platform and solution, and there's a bunch of buzzwords around it. What it really means is, like, do we solve for more of your business in one place? And so I think what HubSpot's done nicely is we've evolved our solution to meet the needs of the customer based on the feedback we got, based on the inputs we got, and based on the conversations we've had with industry professionals. I think if you look at Zoho, 50-50 shot, it has everything you need. I'm not saying that HubSpot always has all of the answers, But the feedback that I've got, having not used it myself, Salesforce I've used, Zoho I've never used. The feedback I get is flexibility in HubSpot, like in the UI. And then in some cases they say, well, look, it's already ingrained in our business. And so the answer is like, if you're just using their CRM, that's fine. There's actually a pre-built integration with PieSync, one of our partners. It's a great integration. It works really well. If you want to do demand gen and grow your business, use marketing from HubSpot. If you want to enable your salespeople to be more effective, your customer success team to better connect with your customer, use our tools. But you could certainly, if you chose to, leave your data in the CRM and use HubSpot as a fabric overlay to enable your teams to be really productive on top of that data system. And they would mirror, they'd work really well together.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. What other questions does any of the attendees have? And there's a few folks here left. You can ask us anything about HubSpot, about the weather, you know, about my shirt, my background, if you want, whatever. We're here to hang out for a few. It's also okay to be shy.
It is.
Allowed.
One of the things I think I would address too is I have, Wiz has a number of different types of clients. So Dan's business is the type of business where a lot of it is kind of sales led, if you will. Like they've got a big network. They have it's a high ticket kind of service, and typically Dan and his team will meet these folks and they will own them and they will go into the system. You can still really utilize this platform like Dan has from a sales perspective, but also from a marketing perspective as well, because most of the stuff that Dan and I are doing is ABM related. So there's that side of the coin, right? There's kind of that more like sales led. And then if it's more of sort of an online business or a startup business or, anything like that, where a lot of the new prospects and new leads are going to be marketing leads, obviously the system works really, really well for that too, as far as bringing those folks in, nurturing them, and then, moving them across the funnel. But I just wanted to let you guys know that I think, in some instances, platforms are good. And for one type of business, I think HubSpot works really well just across the board.
So we've received 2 more questions. Let's
Great.
start with the first. What is one function most users don't use that they should? And what are some really cool features people may not fully grasp that we haven't already talked about? So
I like that.
sales side, Dan, and Stacey, marketing side.
Yeah.
So I think that, I know we could be better at the workflows on our side. That's a feature that takes a little while to figure out, and you've got to have good processes. We're a little, we're a little imperfect in the way we run our business. So I think we haven't taken as much advantage of the workflows as we could, for sure.
Yeah. But and to be fair to Dan, I think that they are maximizing a lot of use out of a lot of the tools. One of the things I think Wiz could be a lot better at doing, because we have the platform, is really utilizing a lot more of the social features. I think, social media has become such a huge aspect of your digital presence these days, and really being in tune with that. I know we post on it all the time when we find articles and stuff like that, but we're not as attuned at sort of, marrying everything together when it comes to social. And I feel like, HubSpot they have deep features in every aspect. That's one I think that Wiz could do a better job of.
I think it's just like with anything, I read a statistic a few years ago that said that, basically when you take a look at electronics, 70% of the features on your typical piece of electronics are not being used. And I think that's probably the same with this, that there are all kinds of features that are out there that we could be using more of that we're just, not yet. But yet it's, it's doing the job for us.
Yeah.
Thank you both. Barrett, do you have any to add?
Oh, I'm fired up about this question. There's a lot that I could add. I'm going to boil it down to 2, because there's 2 that I think it's very specific to the question Steve asked of what's one function most users don't use that they should. That is our tasks queue. So we have a really cool today view in the task function. Imagine everything you do throughout your day being programmed. A lot of folks don't like that. Sales and customer service, love it. So imagine like your marketing team can drop a task on to follow up with somebody or engage with somebody when it's helpful. Your manager can help enable you to do stuff. It's just a really good way to collaborate using the tasks process in HubSpot. So certainly to answer that question. The second one's a cool feature people may not fully grasp. That's a phenomenal question. I love it, Steve. You get a gold star. There is a function HubSpot uses that we don't label as a feature, but it's a way to use our tool. It actually piggybacks off of Dan's comment of the workflow. We call it a from rep send. So let's say, for example, that I'm working with Sarah. And tomorrow, Sarah comes to hubspot.com/pricing, and she's building a package, and she's looking at what this whole thing would cost. Sarah, within a margin of a minute, within a little bit of a gap time there, is going to get an email that looks like it came from me. It's got my name. It's got my beautiful face on it. It's got my signature. It is Barrett to a T. Looks, feels, acts like a Barrett email. I never sent that at all. Not period. One iota of thought went into it. Because what HubSpot did is it looked at account ownership. It looked at user action. It married the two together, and triggering off of a workflow, it said, Sarah should be preempted to drop some time on Barrett's calendar. And so it sends from me, it looks like it came from me, and it dynamically puts my meeting link in there so she can grab time. And so honestly, this is a legitimate like metric here, 10 to 15 meetings a week that are on my calendar are from folks I've never spoke with. People that have questions about HubSpot, that need help with something, they want to buy HubSpot. There's a myriad of different sort of layers to it. All of those folks went to my calendar from one of these from rep sends. I think it's a phenomenal tool, very rarely used. I would encourage anyone that looks at the solution to use as an option. Really, really cool stuff.
Yeah.
Great.
I mean, yeah, I mean, that just goes to the whole piece of like, you don't know what you're leaving on the table, right? Like, I mean, so many of us to have no idea who's coming to our website. We know how many people came and maybe who they were referred to if we know how to use Google Analytics. But this is just such a better way to not leave opportunity on the table, and I know I could be better at that too, much better.
I think it's all of us. It's all about being relevant and timely. And I think people are trying to find, like Nate asked a good question next and kind of in line there, in terms of like, there's a bunch of stuff we're doing. The UI is great. There's a bunch of functionality. What are some of the things that I'm excited about in terms of enhancement? I'm gonna sneeze, excuse me. And I think it's interesting because people, this is not my comment to you, Nate, let me just say as an aside, people come in and they go like, what's the new thing you're gonna do? And I think sometimes we overlook the polishing, the like enhancement, the speed. So I'm excited about that task queue that I was talking about. One of our product managers and I were talking about a week ago. They're doing some really, really cool stuff there so that every user could have their own dashboard that they exist in. And so imagine like all of the things you care about, you could drop it in a modular fashion and it would feed you the most productive, effective, efficient elements into your daily existence. And so now like, I'm not distracted by the noise, whether I'm a CMO or I'm the new marketing intern. I got it all right in front of me. I think there's a lot of impact there that I'm excited about. There's some other things that are really important coming to just like the functionality of HubSpot. I think a lot of you saw us launch some integrations with ERP and with accounting tools and things of that nature. I think we're becoming more of what our name implies, which is a hub of information. So like, I wouldn't be surprised if you start to see things being more flexible in terms of being able to plug more data, more sources into HubSpot to generate more of a holistic approach to managing your business, on the platform. And Nate, I am excited for 2021 Inbound. Let's all cross our fingers it happens in person. And if it does, find me and high five me because I love a good high five. Maybe a fist bump in today's COVID, right? Elbow bump, I guess. We can elbow bump from 10 feet away. It'll be
It's going to be fist bumps for a while.
It's going to be fist bumps for a long while. Yeah.
I agree. It probably will be. Those are awesome questions. Anybody else, Sarah?
You have another question. This one is for Stacey. Can micro content as social media posts distributed across channels could be the best way to raise brand awareness at the top of the funnel going into 2021?
Yep. So I agree. I mean, I think that, the whole micro aspect of content, obviously we all know with TikTok and with everything like that, that feeds into our lack of time and lack of attention and all those things. But I think that having a coordinated strategy from a content perspective that, goes across social to raise brand awareness, but then also, brings in your blog and brings in your ads. I mean, what I love about HubSpot, and honestly, just being a partner for a year, I know there's so much more that I can do with this, which is the whole campaign aspect of it, which is, when you launch a campaign, and I launch campaigns with Dan, and stuff like that all the time, and we do it really well, but it's much more manual than, or it used to be much more manual than it could. And nowadays, and especially with HubSpot, if you have a full campaign, and I'm a strong believer that if you have something that you are wanting, to generate press about, or it's a great piece of content, or it's whatever, you need to do a cross-channel campaign. And I think all of that stuff that you're talking about, Vinesh, about micro content, absolutely, it's huge, but what's important about it is knowing that the person saw it on social, and then that same person is going and reading your blog. It's that awareness and that knowledge. So
I would actually continue with that, Stacey. My last
Yeah.
comment, and then Steve has another one. Steve's just full of questions. He gets 2 gold stars.
Steve is awesome. We
Nate
went to
gets
business
some
school
gold
together,
stars.
and
Yeah.
I love the man. Okay, keep
I love
going.
it. Vinesh, one of the things that I see myself personally on the front line, and then we hear a lot in the language being used at HubSpot is, people's attention spans have changed. Just fundamentally, people are busier. They've got more things coming at them. They're more distracted. And so I think an easy to consume quick bit of value is a highly engaging opportunity these days. People don't want to read a white paper that's 10 pages long unless it's specific to their industry and their need, and there's a value there. But their quick hit stuff, the micro content concept, is really valuable, really important when it's tied back to a holistic approach to like really consolidate and like really bring together this bigger picture that we're trying to tackle. So really, really good points there as well. I think Steve's fired up about data, which I like. The aggregation tools helping senior executives understand how well the team is doing and how the activity is doing or driving revenue. So feels like you and I should talk about the tool one-on-one as well. But yes, I can. The HubSpot solution now has, I'd say, like 4 layers, but realistically 3 layers to the way that we think about reporting. We have a high-level reporting tool that's snapshots out of the box. They're basically pre-baked reports already built out. Click a radial dial, take a look at it, you throw it on your dashboard, it's accessible to you. You can go a layer deeper than that and say, I want to look at these specific types. There's like buckets of reports. So we've got this like high level 30,000 foot view that can give you certainly granular data, but is pre-built. You can customize them, but it's pre-built. Then you have another layer deeper than that, if you will, that is specific to, like, for example, the metrics of a team or the metrics of a division or the metrics of a region. You could look at revenue by source in a very, sort of easy example there. And so our revenue analytics and data analytics around MRR, ARR, and dollar value got really robust about 10 months ago, about a year ago. And now it's at all, layers of the tool where a few clicks gives you that level of high detail into your forecast, into your opportunity creation, into your actual revenue process. And then you can always go to like what I would call flying at like 1,000 feet, like the granular level, where you create custom reports in HubSpot across any property value in the system, including your custom modules if you were to go to that like really intricate enterprise level. And so if you think about it this way, you could, with a few clicks, get some great data. With one big click and some sorting, get a lot more detailed data. And with some time and energy, you could get really any data you're looking for represented in front of you in the way that's most valuable to yourself. And then all of this data can be aggregated, saved, and placed onto a dashboard that any level of team member could then access, or you could certainly have your own personalization. And so you always have in front of you the most actionable data throughout your entire job, throughout everything that you do every day.
Mm-hmm. But Steve, I'm looking at your post. I mean, you can make a source whatever you want to make a source. I think I'm answering your question. To what Barrett and Dan were talking about. You make your list of sources. You make whatever property value you want. You customize all of that stuff. So at the end of the day, whatever data is coming in, you can get relevant reporting on how well it's doing. And to Barrett's point, there's canned reports, there's customized reports. There's a lot of productivity reports for salespeople as well that Dan's got on his dashboard, as far as like how many new contacts, how many this, how many that. So not only from a marketing, but from a sales perspective, there's a lot of productivity reporting that you can do. Oh, last question, I promise. Did you see this one, Barrett? Because I
No.
need to just,
Oh, they're tied together.
how do I segregate regions, say EMEA versus North America?
EMEA versus North America. So you can run them separately and aggregate up to a global level as well. You would have a different pipeline by revenue type. So you could say like EMEA is pipeline 1 and North America is pipeline 2. And in separating those two revenue sources, you would want to make sure that the pipeline certainly identifies the deal value. You could have different deal stages. You could run your sales process by region, but then you could have a all revenue source pipeline that would say, I want to see both together consolidated. That's like the first and most sort of simplistic way, is separation by deals. You could also do something a little more complex in terms of saying, well, we want to understand if an account is EMEA or an account is North America, and then all revenue associated with that account could get sorted. The account-based part of it could be as simple as you creating a property and tagging it, or using one of our native properties and then modifying the property value to say like account location or region or whatever the terminology that's important to you.
Yep. Thank you. I love when people ask questions. And so this has been like one of my favorite parts of it. Sarah, are we getting close to the end here with questions, or are there more?
That's the last one we've received so far.
You're welcome.
You're welcome, buddy.
You guys, thank you for joining us. It means a lot, just to be able to share this with you. It's been a long time coming. Sarah and I have been talking about it for a couple months. So thank you for joining. We hope you found some value in it. Again, if you have any questions about it, please reach out to Sarah or myself, and we will see you soon. All right. Take care.
All right. Thanks, everybody.